this is when they get in trouble, when they just stand out and pound the ball. They don't look like they know where they're going, and the shot comes up.
Oh, my goodness! Rodney Rogers!
You know, they trying to get somebody else my name, but I told them, ain't but one bull in Durham, and that's me.
Rodney Ray Rogers, born June 20th, 1971. In life, no matter what it is you're going through, remember that there's someone somewhere that would trade their life for yours at the drop of a hat. It's a motivational saying that today's feature has learned to live by for 12 years now. Before that, he was known as the Durham Bull, a name given to him because of his naturally strong physique, aggressive play on the court, and his loyalty to his hometown, Durham, North Carolina. You tend to realize how strong a person is when you see the adversities they face and how they deal with them. Rogers has been to the top of the mountain since high school and built an amazing life for himself even after the tragic accident that occurred in 2008. Although he's an inspiration to many and a legend in his home state, looking at it from a basketball standpoint, many wonder why this force of nature is an amateur who was literally Zion Williamson before Zion, even down to the lefty stroke and 6'7" frame, didn't become a dominant NBA player. Here's a few reasons why. Salute to everyone that's requested him. Thank you for visiting the channel. Take a moment to like and subscribe and enjoy the story. It's your boy JC, stuntedgrowth3.com. Let's get it, man. As a youngster, Rodney dealt with your typical inner city tribulations, but took it a step further when at a young age, his father left the family and wouldn't be heard from much again. His mother was nearly killed in a car accident, and after extensive surgeries and being in a coma for weeks, wasn't ever the same as a caretaker and provider of guidance Rodney would need throughout his youth. He'd move in with a friend's family and had to survive knowing that at any moment he could be on his own. It instilled a huge amount of character in a young Rogers, along with a toughness, knowing he could deal with anything if he could overcome this. It also taught him that if he wanted something done, he'd have to go out and do it himself. Nothing came easy, he says. Everyone sees the glitz and the glory, but no one witnesses the grind. That's what makes you hold on so tight to the things you accomplish. And accomplish Rodney did. And although he's had a pretty solid career, had the next three things not happened, could have been even better. Stunt number one, ironically, size. All his life, Rogers has been physically more dominant than literally anyone he stepped on the floor against. In high school at Hillside High in Durham, he stood 6'6" and possessed jumping ability rarely seen at that age, combined with power and finesse. Tools we wouldn't see until recently as Zion Williamson. Sure, there was LeBron, Kemp, Malone, Barkley, Larry, but Zion to me is the closest comparison. That's how good he was in high school, and as we'll later see, in college as well. Everything you see Zion accomplish today, Rodney has done that in his amateur career. As a junior, after being named the State Player of the Year a year before, he averaged 22.5 points a game and 9.7 rebounds, and as a senior, upped those numbers tremendously to 28.3 points a game and 12 rebounds. He was a McDonald's All-American and could have attended any school he wanted that summer. Many people remember him being as Durham as can be. This showed when he decided to stay close to home and attend Wake Forest University and play in the toughest conference in the country. At this point in an amateur's career, especially one the size of Rogers, you're playing against guys that 90% of the time have no future in the sport of basketball, as opposed to jumping to the NBA where 100% of the players do this for a living and are the biggest and best at what they do. As a freshman, he continued his physical dominance as he entered the ACC and just never met a matchup he couldn't physically dominate. He, along with freshman Randolph Childress, came into the program and was as advertised from day one, especially Rodney, who wound up winning the Conference Rookie of the Year over Childress and a star down the road in Grant Hill. There was just no one that could guard his unique mixture of size and strength mixed with finesse, shooting ability, and leaping. He also had a very high motor and effort, which can be credited to the fights he had to endure early in his life. As a sophomore, Rodgers became a flat-out star, although his team struggled to keep pace in the conference and lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. He averaged 25.5 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, and shot 38% from 3 at the 4 position. Many argue that a stunt in his growth was that he didn't leave after that season, and I could see the argument, because maybe he would have been drafted to a better fitted team, but I think he still would have ran into the same problem. He just wasn't tall enough to play the 4 and 5 on the NBA level. He left Wake Forest after his junior season, where he was the ACC Player of the Year and averaged 21 points a game, 7.4 rebounds, and again shot well from the three-point line. He entered the '93 draft and was taken 9th overall to the Denver Nuggets. Immediately, Rodgers and everyone else that expected his mix of size and athleticism to take over the league saw that him matching up against guys 3, 4, sometimes even 7 inches taller than him with the same strength and comparable leaping ability was going to take more than just physicality. He struggled to find that balance early and pretty much never was able to, not to the level of what was expected at least. Stunt number 2, the wrong era. Another huge stunt in Rodney Rodgers' basketball career was that he simply came up in, as best as I can put it, the wrong era. Had Rodgers came up in a time like now, where the NBA is so much more open, with bigs not unusually camping out at the three-point line, developing jumpers instead of in the weight room trying to become the strongest post presence, and a younger NBA due to the one-and-done era, he would be nothing short of a star in the exact same shoes Zion Williamson wears. They play the exact same undersized but athletic role, with Rodney being a more natural shooter. Zion also didn't have and probably won't have to go up against post players as big and as strong and also as mentally dominant as Shaq or David Robinson or Shawn Kemp and pretty much any big of the 90s. Sure, he'll see guys like Karl Anthony Towns or Robin Lopez or Anthony Davis, DeAndre Ayton, or even Joel Embiid, who's the closest thing to a back-to-the-basket post, and even he doesn't have the physically tough or mentally tough game like the players in the 90s and early 2000s. Those guys pride themselves on being the toughest in a grown man's era of NBA basketball. Even if he came up in the era before the so-called grown man era, he'd be much better off. But that wasn't the case. He came in when he came in and had to fight being undersized for the 4 and 5 position and not small or agile enough to play the 3. Also not possessing the playmaking ability or ball skills to slide to a smaller position. In today's NBA, sure, but back then, that would be a difficult task, and it showed as soon as he stepped foot in the league. Stunt number 3, a chance to be himself. That being said, Rodney coming into the NBA at that time didn't allow him the chance to be himself early enough to have the confidence a player needs to have success, especially a player that dominated every level before and came in as the 9th overall pick. The Nuggets were a below 500 team that didn't make the playoffs the year before. A lot of the lack of team success was due to them not having a 4-man that could dominate the block and high post and inflict physical dominance and attitude on opposing bigs. Rodney was drafted to fill those shoes, but the team didn't give him that opportunity right away. Instead, playing him behind LaFonso Ellis, who was a very good player for Denver, but unfortunately for Rodgers was in the way of his success. Ellis would deal with injuries in Rodney's second year that gave him the chance to play more, and lo and behold, he started to actually produce. He He averaged 12 points a game and 5 rebounds in his second season, but was then traded to the Clippers that summer, where he spent the next 4 years and was actually a pretty solid player that was getting the opportunity he needed, but still dealing with size issues in the era he was in. He would then sign with the Suns in 1999 and became the Sixth Man of the Year in the year 2000. A great achievement, even if it wasn't what he was expected to do on that level. His play would begin to decline as he moved from team to team until he decided to retire around 2005-2006 and has been enjoying a regular life of barbecue and city work up until his accident in 2008. Rodgers broke his neck after he flipped off his dirt bike and hasn't been able to walk ever since. The accident has made him aware of how precious life is and thankful to even be alive after such a horrid occurrence. He, along with his wife Faye, that stood by his side like the superwoman she is, make it their business to provide encouragement to other disabled people through his public speaking and also financial assistance with his Rodney Rodgers Foundation. Although he's confined to a wheelchair, he continues to hope and dream of a day he can walk again and maybe even eat the same foods he once enjoyed in the past. All in all, Rodgers is a solid guy that's had a solid career. No, it wasn't the one we expected him to have, but he made it and created a beautiful life for himself and family. His story and foundation is one that can inspire many people and serve as a guideline to what you can attain and also how fast you can lose it all. Salute to him and his family. I have great respect for his story and the man he's become. Like I said, salute to Mr. Rodgers, and I appreciate the things he's done for the game and the world around him in general. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth.